Okay, today we're going to take a look at understanding by design. We're going to take a look at a basic overview of what this process is. So when we think about what we're doing in the classroom, so you have your framework, your 21st century framework. And when we think about us as teachers, where do we typically spend a lot of our time in this process? We really spend a lot of our time on that core knowledge piece. And what we want to do with UBD is it's starting to expand beyond that. So really what we want to take a look at today is we want to develop an understanding of what the core principles of understanding by design are. And as we're going through that process, we're also going to be taking a look at the essential question that revolves around all of this is, what does it mean to understand? So to really dive into that question, we really need to take a look at why we're looking at it. So on the NAEP 8th grade test item, this was a constructed response item. Basically said, how many buses does the Army need to transport 1,228 soldiers if each bus holds 36 soldiers? And 30% of the students responded that, well, you need 31 buses with a remainder of 12. There's a problem with that. What are we doing with those remaining 12 students? What it came down to is the fact that the students knew how to find the answer, but they didn't really understand that in practical sense, the math is right, but they don't really understand how to apply the math. And so when we take a look at what understanding is explaining or showing why and how. So you're showing your work, say why it works, defend your view, make connections on your own, these types of things. So to really understand something, you need to have an insightful use of knowledge and skill in observable performance. You want the students to be able to draw out those key inferences, and you want them to construct that meaning on their own, not something that a teacher is telling them that how to draw those inferences. And this is all essential for recall, but it's being able to transfer that content to new situations or other content areas. So it's more than just knowing the answer, but it's going beyond. Do you really understand that knowledge or skill? So it's being able to apply what you've learned to a new situation. So can you use it, adapt it, teach it, solve problems? And so what it is are you able to take that information that you're learning in class, that you're learning from your teacher, and can you transfer that? So the teacher's role is to make the transfer likely through good design, facilitation, and that feedback to the students. So what you're looking at when we talk about our curriculum and some of the things that we do, when you give the students the knowledge, you're not hitting everything. So what we want to do with understanding by design is we need to go below the surface to have a true understanding of what we're teaching to the students. So when you go deeper into what we want the students to know, that's when you're really uncovering those really big ideas and you're not just hitting the surface. So we're talking about effective backwards planning. It's about achieving long-term desired results. It's not just about coverage or doing an activity because it's nice. Unless there is a specific focus, there's focused questions, and there's big ideas related to standards, we're just covering the curriculum. And it's not about covering the curriculum so that we can get through it, because that's what was handed to us at the beginning of the year. We want the students to really understand and make those connections and go below the surface. So it's not about that surface knowledge and be able to spit out facts and details, but it's really understanding. So we got to go beyond this coverage mentality. So UBD in the simplest form is a planning framework. It is a way to purposely think about planning that develops a deep understanding and makes meaning of those big ideas. So when you're thinking about those big ideas, we need to plan. everything in teaching is about planning. We need the true understanding of the content and the skills that we teach. So it's all about that planning first. It's not just coming in, open up the curriculum and saying, okay, this is what I got to teach today. You really need to plan, and you need to plan with thinking about those big ideas. What is it that you really want your students to get out of the lesson? So it really reminds me of that quote by Stephen Covey that says, effective people are goal-oriented and plan with a goal in mind. So what is your goal in your class? As effective teachers, we need to plan with a goal in mind, not having a goal that says, I want to get through the curriculum this year. You have to have that goal of, what do I really want my students to know? And that's going to take you through these planning stages of UBD. So when you're talking about the stages of backwards design, what you're looking at, you have 3 stages. So first you have to identify your desired results. Then you need to determine your acceptable evidence. And then, and only then, do you get in and you start planning your learning experiences and your instruction. So you need to first get in and identify, what do I want my results to be? And then you have to go and take a look at, what is going to be the evidence that I'm going to use to show that my students got those desired results. And then you go in and then you start planning your lessons. So when you're talking about planning, this is a typical way that we may have planned before. We identify the content, and then we think about the activities that we're doing. We're not checking for that alignment with what our desired results are. And then without checking for alignment, we just come up with an assessment. So with backwards design, we're kind of going through and we're looking at things a little bit differently. And we're looking at them differently by, we want to identify the desired results, we want to make sure it's aligned, and then we're looking at that acceptable evidence. And then once we've identified the acceptable evidence that shows that the students understand those desired results, we're checking for alignment again, and then we're planning those learning experiences and instruction. We're not pulling out ideas or activities because, oh, this would be fun to do, but they're directly related to what the students are going to do to prove that they understand, which again is tied into what you want your results to be. So it's a little different way of thinking about planning. So UBD really addresses the student lack of transferability. A lot of times the students have that information when they walk out the door, they forget it. And it's that different mindset when we're going in, we're thinking, how are they transferring this to other areas in our class? How are they transferring this to their lives? How are they transferring this to those other content areas? So what it's also addressing is the fact that we have lessons that lack that long-term purpose. So how is everything connected? And by going with that backwards design, you're making sure that everything is connected and aligned and everything is back to those standards again. It gets us away from those aimless activities and worksheets that we have the students do. So it's not just about doing an activity because an activity is fun. We're doing an activity because it's directly related to what we want our desired results to be. And then it also addresses that needlessly low level and unengaging work that ties back into those worksheets. Oh, read these pages in the textbook, fill out this worksheet. Why are they doing it? There has to be some type of connection. Is it related to that big idea that you want to do? Is it a worksheet with just 10 questions, or is it a graphic organizer that's leading them to those big desired results that you want? And what it also addresses is that over-reliance on the textbook. The textbook is only a resource for teachers to use. It is not the syllabus. So this is just a basic overview of what UBD is. And so we're going to have a series where we go through each of the stages, breaking it down and what each of the stages means. So if you have questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to contact me at my email address there. All right, thank you.